I exposed my classmate's fake illness after she took my scholarship. My name is Julia. I'm 20, and I never thought I'd be the villain in a story about exposing someone, until my classmate faked being sick and took the scholarship I'd spent my entire life working for. I grew up broke. Not no new iPhone broke, I mean sharing one heater with my mom in a tiny apartment, counting coins at the grocery store, hoping the card wouldn't decline. My mom always said, I can't give you money, but I can give you pressure, and she did. Straight A's, extra credit, every club I could cram into my schedule. There was this one scholarship everyone in my town knew about, the Ravenswood Hope Scholarship. Full tuition, housing, stipend. Life-changing. It was meant for a high-achieving student facing significant hardship or medical adversity. That last part mattered because I've had type 1 diabetes since I was 8. I learned to count carbs before I learned long division. I did scholarship essays hooked up to an insulin pump in hospital beds. Guidance counselors told me, "You're a top candidate, Julia. You're literally the definition of this award." Then senior year, this girl transferred to our school. Lila. Pretty, soft-spoken, instantly adored. She joined our grade halfway through the year and somehow everyone knew her story before she finished her first week. She had cancer, leukemia. There were whispers about chemo, remission, relapse. Teachers gave her extensions, kids hugged her in the hall, people started planning charity bake sales without even really knowing her. I tried not to feel weird about it. I mean, if she was sick, of course she deserved support, but something about the way little details didn't line up stuck in my brain, like how she changed her story about which hospital she went to, or how her hair was always perfect for someone supposedly on chemo. I told myself, "You're being paranoid and jealous," and pushed it down. When scholarship season came, I did everything right. Personal statement, doctor's letters, financial records, transcripts that looked like a robot had done my homework. My guidance counselor practically glowed when she handed in my packet. "If anyone deserves this, it's you," she said. A week later, she mentioned offhand, "Oh, and Lila's applying too, with her situation. Well, competition is fierce." I felt my stomach drop. Her situation, meaning the cancer everyone talked about in group projects and lunch lines. The award committee interviewed finalists. Mine went well, heartfelt but professional. Me talking about growing up watching my mom pick up double shifts, about managing a chronic illness while staying at the top of my class. When I walked out, I actually felt hopeful. Then I saw Lila in the waiting room wearing a lilac scarf and clutching a folder. She gave me this soft smile and said, "Good luck," like we weren't literally competing for the same golden ticket. A few weeks later, the principal called an assembly. They dimmed the lights, put on a cheesy slideshow about overcoming adversity, and brought out the Ravenswood representative with one of those oversized checks. I don't think I'll ever forget the feeling of my heart stopping when he said, "This year's recipient is Lila Hernandez." Everyone exploded into applause. Kids stood up. Some people actually cried. Lila walked onto the stage trembling like she was in shock and gave this speech about fighting for her life and finding light in darkness. She said, "I thought I was going to die last year. Now I get to live my dream and honor all the kids who didn't make it." It was the kind of thing you'd see in a viral feel-good video. I sat there clapping mechanically and felt my throat close. I wasn't mad that a sick girl got the scholarship. I was mad because, for the first time, I let myself admit what had been nagging at me for months. I didn't actually believe she was sick. After that, everything was Lila's miracle. Teachers brought it up in class. Local news did a segment. People shared the article online with captions like, "Proud of our little town." I tried to move on. I picked up extra hours at my part-time job, applied for smaller scholarships, told myself I'd figure it out. Then little cracks started to show. One day in the bathroom, I overheard two girls who'd been in Lila's support circle whispering. "Did you see her post?" One said, "Bottomless mimosas this Sunday. Don't tell her mom." The other giggled. "She said she can't drink because of her meds." Exactly. The first one said, "She lies about everything." Another time, in chemistry, Lila forgot which side effects she supposedly had. First she said, "My period stopped from chemo," then 10 minutes later complained about cramps. She'd mentioned procedures that didn't match the timeline she'd previously given. Most people didn't notice, or didn't want to. I did. I started small. I asked her casually, "Which hospital did you go to? My cousin's doing an oncology rotation. Maybe he knows your doctor." She blinked too long and said, St. Andrews. 2 days later, she told someone else, "At Mercy, they were so kind to me." When I gently said, "I thought you said St. Andrews," she laughed and said, "Oh, yeah, we switched midway." My aunt is a nurse. She told me once, "If you ever doubt someone's medical story, you can't just accuse them. but you can verify basic stuff. So one night, half out of anger and half out of desperation, I called both hospitals, pretending to be confirming records for a scholarship committee. I gave her full name, birthday, the year she claimed to be in treatment. Both said, "We have no one by that name in our oncology records." I felt sick. It didn't prove she was lying. Maybe she'd gone to a third place, but combined with everything else, it felt heavy. I vented to my mom. She frowned and said, "Mia, if she's lying, it's unforgivable. But if she's telling the truth and you accuse her, that's also unforgivable." So I stayed quiet, until Lila made it impossible. A few weeks before graduation, we had a senior reflection circle in homeroom. Everyone shared something they were grateful for. When it was Lila's turn, she launched into a speech. "I'm grateful for surviving cancer," she said, voice trembling, "and for the Ravenswood Foundation believing in me, not like some people who were jealous and tried to bring me down." The room went weirdly still. I glanced up. She was looking straight at me. "Some people," she continued, "even called hospitals to check if I was lying, as if anyone would fake being sick just for money." A few heads swiveled my way. My face went hot. I hadn't told anyone about the calls except my mom. "If you wanted the scholarship that badly," she said sweetly, "you could have worked harder instead of trying to ruin my reputation." Something in me snapped. Maybe it was the months of grinding, the nights of low blood sugar and panic about tuition, the way she weaponized people's sympathy while I quietly stabbed my fingers 4 times a day to check my blood. I stood up. My voice shook, but I didn't sit down. "Which hospital treated you, Lila?" I asked. The teacher tried to intervene, but I kept going. "Because I called St. Andrews and Mercy, and neither of them have records of your treatment." Weird, right? A few kids gasped. Someone whispered, "No way." Lila's face went pale under her makeup. "You're sick," she said. "You're obsessed with me." I pulled out my phone, opened the school's public fundraiser page where she'd listed her journey, and read out loud the 3 different hospitals she'd mentioned in 3 different posts. "At least pick one and stick with it," I said. Our homeroom teacher finally stopped it, sent us both to the office. Gossip spreads faster than fire in dry grass. By lunch, half the grade had seen screenshots of her contradictory posts. By the end of the week, the Ravenswood Foundation had opened an investigation. Turns out she'd never submitted any medical documentation, just personal statements and a letter from a doctor who turned out to be a family friend with no oncology credentials. A month later, the scholarship was revoked. "They didn't give it to me, they gave it to someone else entirely from another school, said they were restarting the selection process." Lila's mom threatened to sue. Lila cried online about being harassed. People took sides. Some of my classmates called me a hero. Others called me cruel. I got DMs saying, "You just ruined her life over money." Maybe I did. I still lie awake some nights replaying it, wondering if there was another way. But then I think about how easily she lied, how quickly she weaponized my doubts against me, how she stood on that stage and used words like death and survivor for clout and cash. So here's my question for you. If you knew, deep in your gut, and backed with proof, that someone faked a life-threatening illness to steal a life-changing opportunity meant for people like you, would you stay silent to avoid drama and let them keep it, or would you light the match and accept that when the truth comes out you might burn right along with them?